What if success wasn't just about talent or hard work? What if the people we call self-made were never really alone? Behind every success story is a story you've never been told, the story of hidden advantages, of being born in the right year, in the right family, in the right culture, at the right time. In Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell pulls back the curtain on what truly makes people great, and it's not what we've been taught to believe. Forget the myth of the lone genius. Real success isn't just earned, it's constructed, and it often starts in the most unexpected places. Let's begin with Canadian hockey players. If you scan the roster of any elite junior hockey team in Canada, a strange pattern emerges. A disproportionate number of players are born in the first few months of the year. January, February, March. Hardly any in November or December. Why? Because the cutoff date for age-class hockey in Canada is January 1st. A boy who turns 10 on January 2nd is grouped with boys who may not turn 10 until the end of December. At age 10, a year of physical development is huge. The older kids are bigger, stronger, and more coordinated. They're more likely to be noticed by coaches, selected for all-star teams, and given better training. Over time, those early advantages compound. So, the best players aren't just the most talented, they're the oldest in the cohort. Success, in this case, begins not with ability, but with an arbitrary date on the calendar. Gladwell calls this the Matthew effect, taken from the Gospel of Matthew. For unto everyone that hath shall be given. It's the idea that advantage begets advantage. The rich get richer, the skilled get more practice, the noticed get more attention. And that brings us to the 10,000-hour rule. In studying successful people, from musicians to computer programmers to athletes, Gladwell found a common thread. They had all put in at least 10,000 hours of practice before they truly excelled. Take the Beatles. Before they exploded onto the global stage, they played endlessly in Hamburg, Germany. Night after night, set after set, often playing 8 hours straight. Between 1960 and 1964, they played over 1,200 times in Hamburg. By the time they hit it big, they had already accumulated more than 10,000 hours of playing time. Bill Gates is another example. He attended Lakeside School in Seattle, one of the only high schools in the country, with a computer terminal in 1968. Gates was only 13 years old when he first laid hands on a computer. And he was hooked. He spent every available moment programming, before school, after school, even in the middle of the night. He found ways to access computers at the University of Washington when no one else was using them. By the time Gates dropped out of Harvard to start Microsoft, he had thousands of hours of coding experience, far more than almost anyone else his age. But here's the key. It's not just hard work, it's also opportunity. Gates didn't just work harder, he was born at the right time, in 1955, which put him at the perfect age to ride the wave of the personal computer revolution. And he had access to rare resources, a school with a computer terminal and a community that nurtured his curiosity. Timing matters. If you were born in the mid-1950s, you were in the sweet spot to become a tech entrepreneur in the 1970s. Gates, Steve Jobs, Paul Allen, Steve Ballmer, all born between 1953 and 1956. Too old, and you might already be settled into a job when the revolution hit. Too young, and you'd miss the early wave entirely. It's not just who you are, but where and when you're from. Consider Gladwell's own mother. Born in Jamaica to a family of mixed racial heritage, she benefited from a complex hierarchy in colonial society that favored lighter-skinned individuals. She received an education at a time when very few black or brown Jamaicans had that chance, and that access shaped the opportunities available to her and eventually to her son. Cultural legacies run deep. Take the story of Korean Air. For years, Korean Air had one of the worst safety records in the world. Planes were crashing not because of mechanical failure, but because of human error, communication failures in the cockpit. Gladwell explains that Korean culture has a high power distance index, meaning people are more deferential to authority. In the cockpit, junior officers were reluctant to challenge the captain's decisions, even when they saw something wrong. That hesitation proved fatal. The solution? Change the culture in the cockpit. Train pilots to speak up, flatten the hierarchy during flight operations, and change how authority is perceived. Once they did, the airline's safety record improved dramatically. The crashes weren't just about pilot error, they were about cultural assumptions and communication styles that had to be unlearned. Now, let's go to the rice paddies of China. For generations, families in southern China grew rice. Rice farming is incredibly labor-intensive. It requires patience, attention to detail, and year-round commitment. As a result, cultures that grew rice developed a work ethic based on persistence and diligence. This cultural legacy influences education today. In one study, students were asked to fill out a lengthy math questionnaire, not solve the math problems, just fill out the survey. The students who persisted the longest with the form, even when they weren't solving anything, tended to come from rice farming cultures, and they also performed best on international math tests. Success in math, Gladwell argues, isn't just about IQ, it's about attitude. And that attitude is shaped by centuries of cultural history. And then there's the story of KIPP Academy. KIPP is a network of public charter schools in the U.S., often serving low-income communities. What makes them different is that they extend the school day, lengthen the school year, and instill a belief in hard work. Why? Because poor students don't necessarily learn less during the school year, they fall behind in the summer. Wealthy kids go to camps, read books, take classes. Poor kids often don't. The achievement gap isn't created during the school year, but during those months when school is out. By reducing the length of summer break and increasing academic engagement, schools like KIPP help level the playing field. Success, then, is not about smarts alone. It's about access to opportunity and meaningful structure. Gladwell also touches on the role of practical intelligence. Imagine a brilliant young man named Chris Langan. He has an IQ of 195, far higher than Einstein. But Langan never found success. He dropped out of college, struggled to find steady work, and lives in relative obscurity. Contrast that with Robert Oppenheimer, the physicist who led the Manhattan Project. Oppenheimer once tried to poison his tutor and faced disciplinary action. Yet he managed to talk his way out of it, attend graduate school, and rise to positions of enormous power. The difference? Oppenheimer had what Gladwell calls practical intelligence. He knew how to navigate social situations, influence people, and use systems to his advantage. He didn't just know things, he knew how to act. Langan, for all his brilliance, lacked this social savvy. Raised in a dysfunctional household, he never learned how to speak up for himself, challenge authority, or seize opportunities. Intelligence may open the door, but social skills help you walk through it. So, what does all of this mean? Gladwell's central thesis is simple. Outliers are not outliers by chance. They are products of a web of circumstances, birth dates, cultural backgrounds, family wealth, social connections, access to resources, and sheer timing. The world's most successful people don't rise in isolation. Their stories are never just about themselves. We celebrate the self-made man. But Gladwell reminds us there is no such thing. Success is a story written by many hands, some visible, some hidden. Think of success not just as an outcome, but as a context. A fertile ground of practice, privilege, persistence, and people who paved the way. The next time you hear someone praise a genius, a billionaire, or a star athlete, remember, talent matters, but so does timing. Grit matters, but so do the chances we're given. Intelligence matters, but only in the right context. Success is not a riddle to be solved, but a story to be understood. So maybe the real question isn't what makes someone great. Maybe it's what made greatness possible for them. That is the heart of Outliers.